Red Metal is an epic World War III novel that pits the West against a desperate Russian force. And what makes this novel stand out from other military thrillers is the collaborative team of bestseller author Mark Greaney and Colorado author Lieutenant Colonel Hunter Rip Rawlings. Mark and Rip join us now to share more about Red Metal and the book signing tonight at the Tattered Cover Aspen Grove. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. Now tell us about Red Metal. It's a military thriller, so what happens?
Yeah, it's a large-scale military thriller. Rip and I were just both fascinated by what's going on with NATO, what's going on with Russia, and some other things that we've created kind of this catalyst for a war to kick off. It involves an invasion that sort of catches NATO and Western forces napping. It's at Christmas, and due to some sort of geopolitical trickery, a lot of U.S. forces have been moved into Asia, and so Russia sees this as an opportunity to strike not just in Europe but in Africa as well.
Wow, sounds exciting and very thrilling.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, most of the early reviews say you're not going to be able to put this book down, but it also praises the accuracy. So what kind of research did you have to do?
We did a ton of research. I went to Poland, Rip went to France, we met in Germany, and we interviewed a former German Panzer general. We went out to Nellis Air Force Base and worked with the A-10 crew. Rip got on the USS John Warner, which is a fast attack sub, and we did a heck of a lot of reading. So we wanted to make it as accurate as possible. I've written several books with Tom Clancy, and I learned about how to research and go out and pull that information in, so it all worked into the book.
And I said there's been some comparative notes to that as well, so that's great.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah. What was your favorite character to write?
My favorite character, probably, I'm civilian, Rip is military. I didn't want every character to be a square-jawed Marine or like a jet fighter pilot. So there's a character named Paulina Tobias, who's a 20-year-old coffee shop employee in Warsaw who joins the civilian militia just to save money for a car, and she finds herself in the middle of this war. She hasn't been training for her entire life. She wants no part of it, and she doesn't become Rambo, but she just sort of becomes an iconic member of the resistance.
Wow. Mark, that's just one of the real strong female characters that are in the book. That's kind of unusual for a thriller like this.
I think it is a little bit. We have three very strong female characters. One of them is a submarine captain named Captain Diana Del Vecchio. And we haven't had a female submarine captain yet in the Navy, but we posit that that's just a few years from now. And we confirm that on board the USS John Warner. So she's a very tough lady, and she does everything that you'd expect her to do in combat. And we also have a female pilot. Generally in a military fiction thriller, you've got kind of someone who comes up through a baptism of fire, and that's our character Glitter. She is a first lieutenant, so she's very junior and very young and has to go through all the trials and tribulations of combat. And she learns along the way, but becomes tenacious and does the job the right way.
Wow. Rip, from your side and your point of view, what was your favorite character to write about?
Well, it's tough. We had so many. I think Boris Lazar was one of our antagonists, but he's also a very good commander. So he's really good to his guys. And even though he's one of the bad guys, he does a really good job, and his troops respect him. So that was fun to write from the bad guy's perspective, but also he's a very sympathetic character. So I think readers will like it because he's not an evil, conniving guy. We have one of those, but Boris Lazar is not that, yeah.
And who would play the movie character?
You know, I think Bruce Willis would be great.
Nice
a bald
choice.
Bruce Willis, because he's kind of an older guy, the character that we have named Boris Lazar, because he's very wise. Everybody knows that he knows tactics, and so I think Bruce Willis would be great.
Yeah, Rip, now when you're not writing, what do you like to do?
Well, I'm still in the Marine Corps, so I've got 2 more weeks before I retire. I've been in 23 years and 10 deployments. And I had back surgery in February, so now it's time to finally get out.
Wow, 2 more weeks till retirement.
2 more weeks till retirement is right, yeah.
We should have a cake or something. I need something. Mark, what about you? What do you like to do in your off time?
You know, I've written 2 books a year for 10 years, and a lot of those books are 200,000 words, so I try to think, what do I do in my off time? I like to scuba dive, work out, and you know, shoot, and just guy stuff mostly.
Yeah. Now, how did you guys get together and introduced in order to collaborate?
I was researching a Tom Clancy novel at the Pentagon, and I met Rip, who was a writer, an interesting guy. We became really good friends. We didn't talk about working together for quite some time, and I just would go out and see him when he was stationed in California and whatnot, and finally we got this idea for a book, and I said, you know, we could probably go get a book deal right now, and that's what we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in your retirement, you're going to have more time to write, Rip.
So. Hopefully, yeah. I am converting to writing, so I've got a couple books coming out next year, so I'm very excited about it.
What about another collaboration between the two of you?
Well, hopefully. I think
we
it really
hope so.
depends on the reaction. I mean, the publisher really liked this one a lot, and I think if we get some good sales, then we've certainly talked about it. So Mark and I are really fond about talking about what are the what ifs. So we've got some ideas in mind.
What ifs? Congratulations,
Thank
and thank you
you.
so much for sharing it with us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Red Metal is available now wherever books are sold. You can meet authors Mark Graney and Lieutenant Colonel Rip Rawlings tonight at 7 p.m. at the Tattered Cover Aspen Grove in Littleton.